Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started and be respectful of everyone's time. I want to start with a confession. For most of my career, I believe that if I was just good enough, right? If I was good enough at my job, that the right doors would open for me. And that's what I kept thinking. And I also thought that that excellence would be noticed. And if I just kept my head down and I did the work, right, someone eventually would see that work. And I was wrong. And I think that belief is what almost cost me everything that I have now. So before I tell you how I built 153 million in real estate, right, while still working in the emergency room, I want to tell you the thing that nobody told me. And that is that being excellent is not enough, right? Being excellent and invisible is just a quieter way to stay stuck. And so tonight, my goal, my heart is to show you how I stopped being invisible. And I promise you, it is a lot simpler than you think. And it has nothing to do with going viral. My name is Inkem Izamama, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me tonight. Thank you for being here, and let us get started. I want to put two facts before you, right? And I'm going to put them next to each other because I never thought that they would coexist together. And that's the fact that I manage 153 million in real estate assets. And 2 weeks ago, I was suturing a laceration at 3 a.m. in the morning in the ER. People assume that you can't do both, and they assume that I could not do both, right? That to build something this big, right, you have to, you've heard that saying, like you have to burn the ships, you have to burn the boats, you have to quit your career, you have to bet the house, right? All those things. Or even some might think that I had this head start that I'm not telling you about, right? That I had this super wealthy, very rich family, or I had a famous name or a network that kind of handed me everything. And I will tell you that none of that is true. I built it with the same 24 hours that you and I have. I built it from a laptop in the margins of like a very full life, right? That's how I built it. And I'm excited to say that, it wasn't easy, but it was so worthwhile. And the only interesting thing is you might already be asking, well, like, how did I do it, right? How did I make it work? How am I sitting here today telling you this story? And the answer is one word, and I think it's going to disappoint you at first, right? And it's LinkedIn. It's that simple. I know maybe you wanted, you wanted me to tell you that I paid someone or whatever else that you thought, but the truth is, it was LinkedIn. And I know that it sounds funny because LinkedIn is the place that, like, it's a place that recruiters spam, right? It's a place that you get all these messages that mean nothing. And it's a place that you watch people announce they're humbled and they're honored and they got this promotion and that promotion and all these things. But I want you to stay with me because you have been looking at LinkedIn the wrong way. And so was I in the beginning. It's not a job board. It's not like a content platform. I think, and I have learned that it is the single largest trust building machine that has ever been created. And it's like sitting in plain sight, right? And almost no one uses it that way. And this is kind of the whole idea, right? Money follows trust. Clients, they follow the trust. They follow, like partnerships, invitations, speaking opportunities. They also all follow that same trust. And LinkedIn, I have learned, right, and I've experienced, is where that trust gets built at scale. And it gets built very quietly while you sleep, while you work, while you live your life, right? It's doing its thing. And everything I'm about to show you from understanding, like, it comes from really understanding that one thing, right? Which is that it's a trust building machine. And so the next hour, that's how much I'm going to keep you here for, hopefully not longer. But I want you to forget everything that you think you know about the platform. And I'm going to teach you how it truly works. So if you stick with me, I think that's what you're going to get. And I want to show you exactly how trust is built because I want the scale to land before I show you how. So I really want to show you I want you to understand it. And then I'm going to show you all the steps. And so again, right, 153 million in assets. I managed it while I was still working in the ER, building a team. I raised more than 6.5 million from people that I had never met in person. And I didn't cold call, right? I built relationships. They were warm leads, right? And I didn't advertise, right? I just organically got to know these people and they've become friends. They've become partners. They've become investors, right? They found me. my very first six-figure investor, which I till today still blows my mind, wired $100,000. And it wasn't because I was like this huge, I had this huge following. I had maybe like at that point, maybe I thought I was proud of myself. I had maybe 5,000, but I started with zero. And on the internet, like 5,000 is not that much, right? Like you're like, okay, people know you when you're like in the millions, but that's all I had, right? That same what I was building led me to get invited to the United Nations General Assembly. A private equity partnership was starting to form, and it's all because of what I was doing on LinkedIn. And none of this again came from like a funnel or an ad budget, right? It came from the trust that I built. And I took the time to do that because I realized how important it was. And every piece of it, hear me, is teachable, because there's nothing that I have done that you cannot do and cannot replicate. So I want to take you back to where it all started, because it didn't start with a business plan. It started with the way I describe it is like a gut punch, right? And I remember like it was over 4 years ago, right? A private equity firm, they took over my ER, and I watched them let go of two of our good doctors. And one of them was like my closest like girlfriend, right? In the ER. Like you have that work friend that you just work closely with, that like when you walk into work, right? You see that person working, and you're like, your mood lightens up because you're like, okay, it's gonna be a great day. And she was one of the people that got fired. She was the kind of doctor that you want in the room on your worst day, right? On the worst day of your life, like you want her with you. She was just a breath of fresh air, but she was gone. And the reason why was because a spreadsheet in some office that she had never even seen decided that that line item was what was going to be the thing to get her fired. And I remember that exact feeling. It's not because I was mad, and it wasn't grief, right? That feeling was fear. Because if it could happen to her, an excellent physician, then it could happen to me. And I thought, I had done everything right. But what I realized was that I was still standing on ground that I did not own. It belonged to someone else. And in any moment, any second, they could pull that rug right underneath my feet. And that was the day I decided that I would never let that happen to me again, and that I would get into rooms and I would build. That's when I started really thinking about ownership. And so I started building a way out, and real estate was that for me. And this is really not about real estate, but it's how I built it, right? And that, but I learned, I loved, I enjoyed the idea of building wealth. I enjoyed the idea of ownership. And so real estate was my path. And almost immediately, right? It didn't start with me figuring it out, right? I hit walls that stops everyone in the room, right? When I started. And it's actually not the wall that you would have thought. It was not that I lacked knowledge or drive, because I have it, right? If you ask the people who know me well, drive is not something I lack. And I was also finding the good deals. But my problem is that nobody knew about me. The investors who could fund all those deals, right? They didn't know that I existed. The partners who I could partner with, who could introduce me to someone else who would open another door for me, right? Those people just didn't know me. They didn't know my name. And the truth is, I had spent 15 plus years, right, training and building. And I spent those years being excellent at really hard things. And not one of those people could like really change my life, right? And I felt like I learned that that was the quiet tragedy of like a really, really high achiever. And a lot of us in this room, a lot of us who are listening to this are that. And the thing I want to tell you is that you're not underqualified, you're not underwitnessed, right? Like you are, just nobody can see you. And you can't build anything real if the right people can't find you. And that's the one thing that I learned slowly but surely. And so I truly felt like LinkedIn was the engine, but I really hadn't tapped into it, right? But my first attempt was a disaster, right? And I'll own it, right? My plan was like me and my sister would come together and would figure out how we'd post on LinkedIn and would come up with these like quotes. And I got on LinkedIn, right? That was my strategy. And I did what everyone else did, right? I just posted to check a box, right? I copied what people were doing. Like if it worked for them, I was like, well, it has to work for me, right? So I did it, but all I ended up sounding was like a worse version of them, right? And so I kept trying, right? And I also I led with what I wanted to get out of the platform, what I wanted to get out of the people that were reading, right? Instead of what I knew. And I looked at the people that were following me. I just looked at them as leads, right? And my goal was, okay, how can I get every single one of these people to know me, to like me, to trust me, to invest with me? But I didn't see them as humans that I needed to serve. And it went exactly how you would expect it, right? I got nothing in the beginning, like truly nothing, because I learned very quickly that even if it's through the World Wide Web, right, people can feel the difference between someone who's genuinely giving and someone who's taking, even if it's like on a screen. I just don't know how about us people. We're wired that way, and I think it's one of the things that makes us beautiful. And so none of it worked, right? But also none of it worked because none of it was real. So one night I remember I stopped strategizing. Like I took away the fact that yes, I wanted to build on LinkedIn, and I wanted to build Phoenix Capital, right? I stopped strategizing and I told the truth. I wrote a post, and I remember this post. I wrote it to other doctors. I wrote about the sacrifice that this profession asks of us, about, trading our time for money, about, and then calling that security. I talked about what building wealth would actually take if we actually did it well. And that post, I wasn't selling anything. I was just being honest about what I was learning and something that we were all genuinely feeling, right? It was my pain point, it was someone else's pain point, but nobody was talking about it. And something happened when I posted that had never happened before. Strangers started writing back, and they didn't write to not to like it, right? Not for an impression, but they wrote and they told me thank you. They sent me DMs and they said, they kind of explained, right, what that they felt exactly what I was feeling. And they told me that I had put words like into what they were so afraid of. I put it into words. And for me, that was a turning point. And that is the thing. I think that's the most important thing that I want you to get away from tonight, to get away with, right? It's what I want to teach you. I stopped trying to get something out of LinkedIn, and I started trying to give something to the people that were on it. And that moment when I changed that, like that moment inverted everything for me. And I think I will say that that's when everything changed. So at least my mindset changed. And I want to be honest, right? Because the highlight reel is a lie, and I don't want to sell that to you. Like I don't want to sell 153 million. I don't want to sell like my post that got 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 likes. It did not take off overnight, right? I think for about 6 months, right, it was brutal, right? Some posts only 50 people would see it, some would be 2,000. Like think about like a huge football stadium, right? 5,000 people. Some would do well, but then others would just fall flat on their face. And I still didn't have a pattern. There was no logic, there was no payoff. And somewhere like I think it was somewhere I think like month 7, right? I had been thinking a few months before. I was like, I can't keep going. Like this is just not working. Even though I had one epiphany, right? It just wasn't working. But I sat in my home office where I'm sitting right now, and I was ready to just be like, you know what? This isn't for me. I wasn't like sad. It wasn't a pity party. I was just like, I don't think this is the best use of my time. And I said, I want to be done with it. And I remember thinking, I'm a doctor. I don't have time to shout into the void, because that's what I felt. I felt like, when you post, you're just like, well, who's even reading this thing? Who's listening to this? And I was ready to give up, right? What saved me, I will tell you, was not motivation. It was a decision. I just decided to to try a little bit longer. And I want you to hear this, because if you're starting to build something, right? If you want to build something, right? And you're like, I don't even know how to start, right? The first few months will be ugly, right? But there has to be something in you that says, okay, just a little bit longer. And you might be watching this right now and you're like a month from your breakthrough, but you're right now and you're thinking, oh, this just sucks, right? And you want to quit. I will tell you, don't quit. I will say, keep going, because I was in a similar boat, and the other side of the story is pretty beautiful, and it's successful, and it's really cool. And so like month 7, is when everything cracked for me. And this is I'd say take a screenshot of this. It's simple, but there's a lot of nuggets and knowledge in this slide. And this is what changed for me, right? I stopped guessing. I went back through everything that I had posted. I mean, everything. And I found a pattern, right? And the pattern was hiding in all the successful posts that I had. And it was 5 kinds of content. And I felt like these 5 were the ones that built trust consistently. And you might have other things that work, but I felt like these were the ones that just really worked for me. And the first one was transformation. Like the honest before and after. What it does, it makes people believe that change is possible. Like they're like, well, if he did it or she did it, I can too, right? And that worked. So before and after. And then I did behind the scenes, right? So the behind the scenes is the real work that proves that you are the real thing, right? You show them what you're doing, you show them how you did it, right? And you share that with the world. And then I also felt like controversial takes, which I felt that also did really well, because it was your honest opinion, and it makes you more memorable. So instead of like vanilla, right? You post a thing that matters. You say the thing that you stand for and you stand on, and you share that. And I also felt like educational frameworks work really well, because when you teach, like you quietly prove your expertise. Like you don't have to hold like a placard and say like, I know this, right? But when you teach someone else, they're like, oh, well, she gets it, right? And so I noticed that really worked. And the last one I think I noticed worked, right, was vulnerability. And I felt like it worked so well because it was that human moment that makes a stranger feel like they know you, right? And so I started learning that, right? And when I started meeting my investors in real life from LinkedIn, right? People I'd met on LinkedIn, it made sense because they really did feel like they knew me, right? We had conversation and I was like, wait, we're meeting for the first time, but it felt like long lost friends, right? And so I stopped creating from scratch, and I started rotating those 5 posts on purpose. And the magic word was, it was very, very, very predictable. And results stopped, like it wasn't lucky anymore, right? I had built a system, and I think that is really what catapulted me and what changed everything. And then this moment happened, and I will never, ever, ever forget it. I was sitting in this same office, and this was the same office I had seen tears months before, right? But something, I can't remember what I was doing, but it was something ordinary, probably like reviewing a deal. And a message came in, and it came in from a doctor that I had never met, I hadn't spoken to. And she didn't want to schedule a call. She did not. She just said, and she had a few questions, right? But not a lot. But she said, this is what she said. And the questions came after she made this statement. And she said, I've been following you for months. Tell me how to invest. And within like a very, very, very short span, right, she wired $100,000 before we even like really went through like the PPM and all the important stuff, right? She was like, I want to be a part of this. I had, I think, 5,000 followers. It wasn't 50,000, wasn't 500,000. It was just 5,000, right? And that's when I finally understood. And for me, it was 5,000. For you, it could be 2,000. But I finally understood what I had built. It was not an audience. It was a reputation that did the selling for me while I slept. That's what I had built. And it was reach that had gotten me kind of more than just the applause. It was trust, right, that got me that buyer. And that was the whole game. And that's when I learned, okay, this really works. So this took time, right? And so like 7 months became a year, and truly 18 months after that night that I almost quit, this is the same system like that I had built, and it was now truly working. And right now it's got me, I think we're at maybe 16,000 followers and climbing, right? And these are genuine people. I didn't buy them, not boosted, right? It was, a lot of them were investors who were reaching out to me instead of the other way around, right? There's definitely a strategy to reach out, but a lot of it was now organic, right? And in that span, $6.5 million is what I raised in investor capital. And it's, a portfolio that is worth more than like I can like jump about today and scream about, right? I had invitations again to the United Nations General Assembly, right? I had started forming partnerships that would truly catapult, really propel Phoenix Capital. And the one thing that I did, like, the one thing that I wanted from the very beginning was a career in medicine that was by choice, right? Instead of necessity. Because I didn't want them to like have my whole hands in their, like have my whole future in the palm of their hands, right? And that is what I had built, and all of it was from this platform. It did that, and it was one honest post that I almost gave up on. Like one honest post that I almost didn't write. So now let me teach you, because I promised you the how and I meant it. And in studying like my own path, right? And in coaching a lot of other professionals through theirs, like figuring theirs, building their platform, right? I found that these are the three beliefs that stop like brilliant people cold. And it's a lie that I think that keeps most like qualified people, a lot of qualified people, it keeps them invisible. And while like half, like half of them don't do as well as they want to do, the client, the stage, right? All of those things are important, but I find a lot of professionals stop before they even get anywhere. So if you leave tonight with nothing else, right? I want you to leave with these three things because I think they're so important and they're worth more than anything that I'm going to offer to you later. But I want to take the time to really go through it one at a time. So the first thing that you have been taught wrong is what it takes to be known. Like we think a lot of the times we think visibility is like a megaphone. So like you're screaming through it, that in order for you to be known, like you need to be loud, you need to have a huge budget, you need to have a PR team, you need this viral moment that just comes by luck, right? You need some sort of lucky break. And so we wait. You just keep doing because you're like, okay, one day I'm going to write the right thing and I'm going to get discovered. But this is the truth that changed my life, right? A brand is not built by broadcasting. It is built by being trusted. And trust is not necessarily loud. Trust is built one honest moment at a time. And it's built in public and it is consistent. And you keep doing it until the right person is watching. And I want to show you how upside down this is, right? A viral post, it will get you 100,000 strangers who will forget you by dinner time if you went viral in the morning. But one trusted relationship will get you $100,000 that is wired into a real estate investment opportunity. And I will take that wire every single time over a viral post that will do nothing, right? So I have learned that as I've grown, that reach is such a vanity metric, right? But trust is the asset. And the beautiful part about it is that you don't need money or fame, right? You don't need any of that to build it. What you really need is to show up and to give something super real, to show up consistently, and to give something that is of value. That is the vehicle. So, and it's not volume, it is simply trust. I brought up brand and I want to define that because the word has been kind of ruined. Your brand is not your logo, it's not your font, it's not your color, it's not your headshot, right? Your brand is kind of that feeling that a stranger has maybe 3 seconds after they find you, right? Do they trust you? Do they want to do business with you? Do they want to know more? Do they feel like they already know you, right? That feeling is built by all of these three things kind of working in your favor, right? Who do you clearly serve? What do you consistently give? And what do people say about you when you are not in the room? If you can answer those three questions really well, you can build a brand. And most of the people obsess over logo, and a lot of people just ignore them, right? Except you're like McDonald's or Airbnb or something. But otherwise, people don't remember the logo, but they remember how you made them feel. And when LinkedIn, if you do it right, it builds all three of them at once. And every time you show up, right? Every time that, like whether you're awake or asleep or halfway across the world, right? Or even at a night shift, right? If you do LinkedIn well, it's going to do all of those things for you. And so here's what it feels like on the other side once you've built trust, right? I want you to picture like in your inbox, you get this message. So instead of chasing, a message like this comes to you and an investor says, and these are screenshots from my DM, but I had to glitch out the names. So like, just to protect our investors. But you get a message like this, right? I found you on LinkedIn and I know that I want to work with you, right? Or maybe a partner says, I've been watching what you're building. Can we talk? Can we partner together? What could that look like? Maybe a stage that says, hey, based on who you are, based on what I've seen, we would like for you to speak and educate our audience, right? And again, I didn't pitch a single one of those, not one. But the brand that was already built through LinkedIn, right? It did all the convincing before I even had a single conversation or before one of them sent me a DM, right? And that's the difference between selling and being sought. And you have to understand that and work towards being sought. And that I think is actually, I know, is very available to you. So here's the first secret in a simple sentence. You don't need a big budget. You don't need to be a huge PR firm. You don't need a viral moment. You just need to show up consistently and give something real and take the time to build that, right? Take the time to iterate it, to figure it out, but do that and keep showing up and keep giving something real until trust compounds into an opportunity. It's that simple, but I know it's not that simple, but it is that simple, because you can be loud, and forgettable. And that's not what you want. Trust is quiet and it pays. And so that is the fairest vehicle as you start thinking about, how do I even build? And the second thing that's standing in your way is not, it's like, it's not out there, right? I think it's in here. And it sounds reasonable. It's what you tell yourself, right? I don't have the time. I'm not interesting enough, right? She looks cool. She has a story. Like, I don't have a story. I don't like self promotion. I'm not interesting enough. Like, this work, like this whole thing that you're telling me is for extroverts and it's not for me, right? And that's the thing that you tell yourself. And I used to believe every single one of them, right? Like, it was just easier for me to live my small, quiet life, and I liked it. But I was able to break every single one of them apart because it was not true. And I think time was the thing that helped me truly be able to build something and not latch onto any of those limiting beliefs, right? And so it's 60 minutes a day. And I will say this, right? When you're like, okay, I don't have time, like, I don't have time to build something that seems worthwhile. But the amount of time that it takes to build this is the amount of time that you're scrolling through other people's social media, and you're taking in all this content that is doing nothing for you, right? And if that doesn't like halt you in your steps, I don't know what will. But at least maybe it'll be interesting enough for you to think about, right? You could be here sitting and you could be a doctor, or you're an attorney, or you're an expert at something, right? You're not boring. You have a story. But I just think that you're buried, right? Nobody sees you right now. And you have been so close to your own expertise for so long that you can't see how rare it is, right? You can't see how cool what you're bringing to the table is. And I think, like, the idea of self promotion, this is the one that kept me quiet for a lot of years. And so I want you to hear me really well, right? What you're afraid of is bragging, right? You're like, okay, I don't want to brag, but I don't think this is bragging, right? When you share your story and when you put out content and when you educate, right? I think it's teaching. And when you give away what you know, you're not performing, right? You are serving someone else. And I think if you see it from that perspective, right, then you're going to want to do it more. You're going to want to do it constantly. And then something really strange happens. You stop selling, and people start asking you for that thing, right? So then you start people want it, people start buying, right? That value that you give, people actually, they want to be a part of it. And so the idea of like, I don't have enough time, this isn't me. I You have 60 minutes in a day. You could spend time to create, you could spend time to engage, you could do all of those things, and you would have enough time, right? And then so and also, like, it's very easy to work from templates. So you can also shrink down your time for that reason, right? So 15 minutes, you can educate yourself. All of that could look like a solid hour, right? And that's the whole commitment. And I promise you again, right, you're already spending more than an hour scrolling through, reading through, absorbing things that are not moving you in the right direction and that are not benefiting you. And you're literally absorbing other people's lives instead of building your own. And so that's what I want to tell you. And I hope that that makes sense. You don't have to become a different person, and that's also the fear that kept me silent. So I want to speak to it, right? If you are private, like, if you're like, I don't really like putting myself out there, I don't like putting pictures, right? Then teach, right? Then do a lot of more behind the scenes posts where you take your camera and you show what you're doing, right? And so you don't need selfies and you don't need hot takes, right? Just, if you don't like self promotion, then lead with value, give it. And then the promotion will take care of itself, because at some point people would like to know you, they want to see you, they want to trust you, and you will very soon get over that. So I'll say that and I'll leave that to it. But and again, like if you're like camera shy, right, then start with writing. You don't have to put your face, right? Just again, educate, give what's important. And I think that's, it'll help you. And if you don't like selling, you're like, man, I really feel like I'm selling, lead with authority, right? Let people already be sold just by being a thought, being like a thought leader and someone of authority. That's the lane for the quietest person in the room. So if that's you, right, I've given you multiple options as to how you can, how the system can really fit to make to work for you, and you never have to bend to fit it. And this is the part that makes it doable, right? Like, because you're like, I have a full life, how am I going to do this? You don't have to create from scratch, right? You can start with filling the blanks, right? What I have on the screen is just a simple template that you can truly use to create a story that is your great story, and it's completely yours, right? The skeleton fits almost any story you've ever had. And when I tell you about kind of what we've built, there are multiple iterations of this that you can use to continue to tell your story that is yours, right? You just copy it, customize it, and post, and just keep moving. So that's what that looks like. So secret two, right? It's, you don't necessarily need more time. You don't need more charisma. You don't need a different personality. You don't need to become someone else. You just need a system that is built for the person that you already are, right? And so, and as you figure that out, right, you'll become more comfortable, and you'll grow in the character that you want to be, and how you portray yourself, and the value that you give. So remember that it is service, and service done, when done well and done consistently, it sells better than like any selling that you want to do. These are the things that I've learned that got me. So the system made sense, but then the understanding, like the vehicle, how it works on the back end, is then what propelled me. The third secret is kind of the, like, that third belief is the sneakiest, because it dresses up as humility, right? And it's the idea, again, it kind of leads a little bit from the second the second belief, right? And that's that, like, my story is not special, right? Or you might even think my field is too niche, right? Everybody's already doing it, I don't have anything worth saying, right? And you tell yourself that, right? You tell yourself, they're already doing it, they're like a thousand, like the ocean is blue, right? There's nothing else that I can give, right? And I want to tell you what I discovered, because I think it flips everything. The thing that I thought really disqualified me became my greatest advantage. I thought being a doctor, in my instance, made me too serious, too niche, too far from the marketing world to even matter online. That's really what I thought. And I think it was the opposite. The internet is drowning with, it's like drowning in confidence, and it's starving for credibility. So it's like people will get on the mic and they will own it, right? But they don't have credibility. They don't have any they don't have any matter behind what they're saying. And everybody today, everybody has an opinion, and almost no one has earned the right to it, right? And this is what I keep seeing every day. But when you come from a place of education, when you're an expert, right, then you have earned the right to that opinion, right? Your training, the nights of sacrifice, the real expertise, like, that is not baggage, that is the moat. That's like the most important thing. And it was so hard for me to understand and to believe this, but like, investors did not trust me in spite of me being a doctor, right? They trusted me because of it. And that was really kind of a cool awakening for me. So I want to tell you to stop waiting until your story is like dramatic enough. It doesn't have to be. Your expertise, what you know, what you believe is the story, and self-trust, right, is that thing that you are like waiting to feel before you start. It's built when you start, right? So you're like, well, will I be good? Will I crush it, right? But when you start, you're going to make mistakes, but then you're going to continue to trust yourself. You're going to continue to build that, but you just have to take the first step. And I don't want you to take my word for it, right? So let me show you someone who is not me, right? And her name is Dr. Uzomaka, another physician. And when she started, she was exactly where a lot of you are, right? She had real expertise, she had real accomplishment, and she was completely invisible online. And she had something really cool. She had a product that she was like, I want people to know this because I think it's so helpful for them, right? And so she was not sure that she was the kind of person who would put everything out there, right? And by everything, I mean just like telling her story, telling what she, like telling her offer, giving value. And then she started using the system and everything changed, right? She went from nobody reading her, nobody reading what she had to say, or believing, to like everybody excited to say, tell me more. And she started building that because she started using this exact same system that I use. And if you're wondering whether or not, you're even on the right platform, let me just settle this. Like if you're like, okay, well, should I be on, I don't know, TikTok or something else, right? There are more than 1 billion, that's billion with a B, 1 billion professionals on LinkedIn. 4 out of 5 people that influence real business are on LinkedIn, right? About 100 and I think 80 million are senior leaders, and they are all on LinkedIn and they're all active, right? And so your investor, your client, your partner, the person who could change the entire trajectory of your life, your mentees, like the stages that you want to be on, the thing that you're building, right? This is the platform for you right here. And I think there's no better one than it. And the only reason why they haven't found you yet is that you haven't let them, because you haven't been showing them all the things. So the third secret is your expertise is not too niched and your story is not too small. It's just right. I said it before and I'll say it again. The world is drowning in it all. Everyone who is so confident but is starving with credibility. So things that are of substance, of value, and credibility is the one thing that you already have. So you will not feel ready, right? You just have to start, right? Like start today, right? The best time to have started was 5-10 years ago. The next best time is today. So start building, right? The readiness that you're thinking you're going to get, like, when you overanalyze and you get paralyzed by it, like that readiness is built by starting today, but never before it, right? It's not going to come after. And so let me answer that question that has been open since the first slide. How did a doctor working, working in the ER build 153 million in real estate assets? And the honest answer is that the real estate is almost beside the point, right? I could not have raised a single dollar of it without the trust that I built on LinkedIn, right? The buildings are just what the trust turned into, right? And I'm grateful for it. But I think that's the best way I can describe it to you. And this is what I want you to really hear tonight. And I'm here to teach you the engine underneath it all, right? Because that engine does not care what you are building, right? It doesn't care if you want investors, or if you want clients, or if you want partners, or if you want patients, or if you want a movement, or if you're on a mission, right? The engine is the same, right? It's build trust, but do it at scale, and the right people will come to you. But they'll already come convinced, and for the rest of your life, right? You just have to keep doing that thing over. And that is exactly what I want to hand to you today. So I want to kind of bring it all together. So the vehicle, right, is the trust. So that's what you have to build. And LinkedIn, I think, built it better than anything on earth. And you can do this in like, truly, it's going to, building it is going to take a little bit of time, but on a daily basis, I think we can do this in an hour. And as exactly just like as you are, without leaving your career, right? Use it as leverage. Use it as leverage to build whatever that you want to build. And I will tell you that it works. And it's not because like you are charismatic. It's not because, it's not because of any of that. It's because it runs on how humans decide to trust. And everything I taught you is yours to go use tonight, right? So figure out how you can understand how you can become an expert, right? Or continue to become an expert, and then go share that message, right? I gave you the 5 types of posts. Go think through that and spend some time and build that. But if you kind of want the whole system, right? The shortcuts, the templates, and kind of me in the room with you while you build it, then I want to show you what exactly that looks like. But before I tell you about that, I want to be honest with the next part, because I respect your time too much to pretend like this is for everyone, right? And so the system that I built that has helped me scale, and that can help you as well, It's not a magic button, and it's not zero effort. It's not, those things are very true. And it's not for you if you're not willing to put in some time to build it. It's not for you if you want someone to build your brand while you just watch, right? I don't think that's for you. I think people link arms and align with people that they know, that they like, and they trust, and that takes a little bit of time to build it. So you can't stand back and watch that being built without being a part of it. And it's also like, if you're not ready to become visible, right, then I'm not sure that this is for you as well. Because being seen to some degree is the whole point. And it is not always comfortable, but we don't do stuff just because it's comfortable. We want to be uncomfortable every single time. So if you are done kind of letting go of becoming unwitnessed, and you already know the exact right people, you know where they are, then lean in, because the next part is kind of what I built. And so this is LinkedIn Unlocked. It's everything that I've learned across 4 years of trial and error, and eventually getting the results compressed so you don't have to cry or bleed for it the way I did, or even spend a ton of money trying to figure it out, looking for gurus to help me. It's 6 modules. And first is kind of the foundation and the profile. So the moment that someone lands on you, like, they trust you. And second is the 5 post system that I talked about earlier on, but really, really broken down. And the third is kind of outreach and networking. So how to start, talking to people without them knowing that you're really talking to them. And the fourth is now building a thought leadership that will bring the entire brand and platform together. And so that people know your name. And then the fifth is where you turn it all into money. And then the sixth is kind of social proof, that makes trust kind of like just keep compounding on itself. And it's over, it's about like 40 lessons, 40 to 50 lessons. And it's more than 15 hours, but the entire engine is handed to you. And I don't want to, I didn't want to leave you with theory. So everything comes with templates, right? I showed you an example of a template, but more detailed and more robust. But you have, for all the 5 types, you have multiple templates, a lot of message scripts, like, profile templates, discovery calls. So when you start sending DMs, right, all of that is important, and you need to know how to do it. You need to know how to sound human, how to build relationship before you start asking for something, right? A content calendar, so you never wonder what to post, right? You just have an idea, and based on the scripts, right, based on the different types of content that you can write, you can have a calendar. You will have a calendar around that. And then there's information to help you with capital raising, but the same strategy and the same material that I used to raise $6.5 million, you have access to that. And on all of this is in its own library, and alone that's worth thousands. But you get all of that as part of the system. And this is the thing that I'm excited about the most. And this is the thing that I think a lot of the students really like, right? And it only exists right now. And so it's the Founding 100. If you join kind of in this window, you're not just only going to get the course, right? You're going to get me. You're going to get 12 months of live group coaching, where we bring all our real posts, all our profiles. We kind of talk about delving into everybody's post each day. And like, we help each other, the real numbers, like your lead magnets, like the things that you get stuck, we bring it in monthly and we talk about it, right? And you have direct access to me to ask any questions to help you grow on LinkedIn, and priority on everything I create from here moving forward. So you always get access to that. But I can only do this like for the first 100 people. After that, you're going to get the course, which is still great, but all the other things are just as important. And I think like that, the private community that you're building alongside other professionals who can even help you, and you can help them, because, everybody's doing something different and you can glean from each other, right? That's the purpose of the community. And all of that is inside LinkedIn Unlocked. And so I want to kind of add up plainly everything you're getting. You're getting the course, the full template library, you're getting 12 months of coaching, and then the private community, future access, and we're always fixing, we're always iterating it, and we're coming out with a even better version, and you get access to that, right? And then direct access to me, which I can't put a number on, right? So like a LinkedIn member just called, we met the other day, and I really helped her think through entire lead magnet system, and all she had to do was just go take it and go create, right? And that's the access to me, right? And so all of that, right, is worth way more than $10,000. But the only question left is like, it can't cost that much because I've already trialed it and paid more for you for other things, and you don't have to do that. But I do want you to learn, and I want you to grow. And so one more voice, and then I'll tell you the number, because I never want it to be just me talking, and I'd rather you hear stories of people who are in the course and who are doing it. And so I want you to quickly watch this, right? Same system, same platform, but in her own words. And I'll say this is the courage to be seen. That is where every bit begins. So hopefully this works. Okay, great.
I'm Uzama Kaeke. I'm a physician in Maryland. Since joining this course, I have learned how to leverage my voice, my experience. I have learned how to share my story. I've learned how to be authentic and vulnerable, things that I could never do before. And this has really given me more confidence in my brand, has given me the leverage I needed to be able to really put myself out there.
Okay, great. And so here's the number. For the first 20 people tonight, you're going to get all of it. So you're going to get the full course, the template, 12 months of life coaching, the community, direct access to me, and lifetime access to every future update. And so it's not 10,000, it's not 5, but it's $1,750. And that is more than kind of 80% off. And that is the first tier, but it's going to be gone in 24 hours after we end this conversation tonight. But it's for people who want access immediately, and you will get access to everything. And then after the first 20, right, the price is going to move to $19.97, and that I'm going to hold that from tomorrow, so 24 hours after today, until Sunday at midnight. And everything is still included, every benefit, the 12 months of coaching, lifetime access, nothing removed. You just get a smaller window. If you still want to think about it a little bit more, if you want to ask questions, if you want to reach out to me or someone else on our team, just for a follow-up to ask questions. And then starting Monday, the final founding spots go to $24.97, but you still get everything. But once the 100 seats are full, then it changes permanently, and it just becomes a course alone. So no live calls, no community, no me in the room, because I think there's also a beauty in a small number that you can grow together, you can partner with, you can grow on LinkedIn with, but that access doesn't come back after Monday. So it's really important that if you're thinking about it, to jump on it. And I want to make it very safe for you to decide, because I believe in what it does. So join, do the work, implement the system. And if you don't see meaningful results, I will give you every dollar back. And I will spend 1 hour, a full solid call with you to personally understand why and to help you move forward without the whole system. You don't carry any of the risk, and I carry all of it. And that's kind of how sure I am about this. And so our team will put a link on the screen. And so if you're thinking about it right now, right, go ahead and click on the link, and then you'll get access to it. And again, you'll get access to it right now. So I want to reframe the price for you, because $17.50, I don't think is the real cost of it tonight, right? The real cost is another year of exactly what you have now. And so it's another year of being invisible to, investors who would fund you and fund what you're building, right? Or it's another year of being invisible to the clients who would gladly pay for what you know. And you're invisible to partners who would open kind of the next door. And you're, another year of you being invisible to the stages that would carry your voice, right? And it's another year of building in silence while kind of people with half your credentials are around you, and they're giving confidence when they don't really have it, right? But it's another year that they're building in public and you are not getting the reward. And that's an expensive choice. But I will say that like $17.50 is not. So I want you to think about exactly, if you're really thinking, I want to build, like, what could that look like? So you are standing at a fork, in the road, and you'll pick something tonight, whether you mean to or not. But I want you to kind of understand what that path looks like. So, let's just say 90 days from now, right? Nothing has changed. Same silence, same invisibility. The opportunities you wanted quietly going to people who decided to show up, right? That's path one. And then the second path is you step in tonight, 90 days from now, your brand is compounding, the right people are starting to find you, the right version of your life is kind of more than you imagined, and that's under construction because it's going to take more than 90 days, but you're taking the right step in the right direction. So it's those same 90 days, but they will go by either way. And the question is, what do you want, or who do you want to be in those 90 days? What version of you do you want to be standing here when it's all said and done? I think that's the most important thing. And I want you to understand what happened to me a few years ago, and I want to share that with you, right? It was over 4 years ago. I stood in an emergency department and watched them let one of my closest friends go. Again, she was brilliant, someone that like a ton of patients loved, but she was gone because a spreadsheet said that she had to go. And I understood, like, in my body, that no amount of being good at my job would ever make me safe. Like, as long as someone else owned my time, as long as they owned my income, that is the day that this started, right? And so it didn't start with a business plan. It started with a decision that I would never again be at the mercy of a room that I wasn't in, right? And today, like, I want, like, today my goal was to own that room. And I'm on my path to doing that. I'm already doing that, but even more to grow, right? And so that room looks like $153 million in real estate assets. It now looks like investors who find me. It looks like a career that I keep because I want it, not because I need it. And the best part is that um, I want you to believe that I built this platform that you already have easy access to from exactly where you're sitting right now. So another thing was that, like, and you might be thinking, well, it happened to her, it can happen, can it happen to me? I will say this: I was not special. I was not early, I was not lucky. I just started. I just made a decision to start, and I wasn't going to stop. And so that same system that I built after months of trial and error of about to quit, right? That same system is available to you. The platform is there for you, right? Even if you don't take anything, like, go and try and implement and start creating and see what you build from there. So the only variable that is left is you. And it's, what can you do? And so here's everything kind of one last time. The first 20 seats are available and they'll close in 24 hours. And then through Sunday, right, it becomes $19.97. And then Monday it moves to $24.97. And the founding doors will close right after that. So you'll get instant access. So as soon as you enroll tonight, and if our team hasn't put the link, we'll make sure that we get that. But you get instant access as soon as you enroll, and you're protected by full guarantee. So you don't risk anything, but just gamble on yourself and bet on yourself and see what it would look like if you grew. So again, right, we're gonna put the link in the chat, and then click on it, and then go start implementing, and then see what you gain from all of it, because I think it's very important. And I'm gonna stick around and answer questions, because I think that it's very, very important. So if you have questions, I saw a question in the chat. If you have questions, put it in the chat and I'll be able to answer it. And then I think I want you to make sure that if there's something that you're like, I'm not 100% sure, please feel free to put the questions in the chat. And then I just want to put up so just to connect. But you can feel free to put up questions, and we'll be able to put the questions live in a second. So whether or not, like, whether or not tonight was your night, right? I meant every single word. I definitely want to, ask questions. This is all my contact information on screen. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're just like, okay, well, I really want to grow. What does that look like? Send me a message. Send us an email. I'll be able to get a hold of you. But, like, follow me on LinkedIn. And then just, even if you just want to see kind of what I'm doing and understand and see the vision behind it and see the value that it's bringing, I definitely say jump on with me. So, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay, great. I see a question on the screen already. Okay, so the first question is, give me 1 second. What opportunities can people miss when they're qualified but not visible online? So it's kind of what I hinted on, right? So you can be very qualified and you can be an expert in your field and you can be doing well by every means, right? But if you want to go past your immediate circle, if you want to go past your small circle, then you have to start thinking about how to become visible online. And I think that that's the most important thing, that we all need to be able to, to be able to become visible. But if you're not visible, you're going to stay where you are. But if you really want to grow, then you have to start thinking, how can I reach many, right? And so instead of one to one, you start thinking about one to many. And I think that's the most important thing. Second question, are there any other questions? Second question, what is one mistake you would tell people to stop making on LinkedIn? I would say, great question. I would say stop thinking about what you get out of it. And I think when you start thinking about creative ways to give value and to share your story and to share your expertise, I think you'll win so much more than when you focus on what can I get from it. Next question, are we able to enroll tonight to reserve a spot while we're still thinking? Absolutely. So we should have a link on the screen, and I haven't seen it, but I will go ahead and pull it up. I'll go ahead and pull it up right now. Okay, perfect. So the link just went up. I think if everybody can see the link, you can go ahead and just claim your spot. And then we will reach out to you for next steps, but you'll get immediate access to it right away. Okay, so I think, Tiffany, you asked a question, and I think you should be able to click the link. For everyone else, I'm just going to quickly put it, put a link so that you can get access to it as well in the chat. Okay. It's in the chat right now, so everyone can get access to it. But if there are no other questions, I want to say thank you so much for your time and for spending this hour, exactly 7 o'clock Central Standard Time with me. If you have any questions, please, again, feel free to connect, feel free to reach out, and we can go from there. But have a wonderful evening, everyone. Perfect. Good night.